The Little Joe electric locomotives. Comrade. Because, despite operating mostly in America, these were not meant for us, initially. These locomotives were pretty large, with a significant wheel arrangement of 2-D plus D-2, which is similar to a big boy, though under the white notation, technically they'd be a 480 plus 084 due to center articulation. And someone pointed out, isn't that the same as, like, the centipede, the Baldwin centipede? And yeah, but it's different whenever it's an electric unit, especially an early one. I explained this in the last video, but in case you missed that, I'll explain it again. Early electric units usually had a lot of wheels. Quite a number of wheels. And the reason is that older electric equipment that they needed to, run was really heavy. Really heavy. So as a result, to get the axle loads down, they often had a lot of wheels. That's the simplest way I can explain it. So for them to have an obnoxious wheel arrangement like this, it made a lot of sense. For the Baldwin centipede, it didn't make any sense. That was just stupid. But, we've already been over that. Back to this, Little Joe, named after Joseph Stalin. Interesting. So, the origin of these locomotives, comrade, can be traced to the Soviet railways after World War II. Once the war was over, they proceeded to continue with their electrification program they had actually started prior to the war breaking out, and they put on hold because they were being shot at, which is fair. But because local factories were still trying to reorient themselves after the war, they decided to look overseas for someone to produce locomotives for their electric lines, particularly their 3,300 volt direct current DC overhead system. Now, the Cold War is often believed to simply begin after World War II is over, and while that's sort of true, it's also not. Things didn't deteriorate immediately with the Soviets after the war. We were still on reasonable terms, though kind of worried about a handful of things. Either way, though, things were still okay enough where the Soviets felt comfortable coming to us for rolling stock. Their factory classification was absurd. It was GE2-D plus D-2 406/546 8-GE 750-3300V. Now, to be fair, all of that does mean something, but also, wow! In the Soviet Union, they would have classified these as A series, with the A standing for Amerikansky Elektrovоz. Comrade. Which means American electric locomotive, because that's what they would have been. And at the time of their construction, they were actually the strongest electric locomotives in the world. Their tractive effort was 75,700 pounds of force. General Electric handled the construction of these at their Erie, Pennsylvania plant, but under the supervision of Soviet specialists. Not because they were really telling General Electric what to do, but the Soviets had specific needs for their lines, so they wanted to make sure that the locomotives were going to work for them, so they worked together on the project to a degree. The Ministry of Railways of the USSR was very confident with receiving the locomotives, even with the rising political tensions. They went as far as to allocate running numbers. At first they were going to be 1591 through 1610, which was later changed to 2301 to 2320. Unit A 1598 was the first one ready to roll, and she was tested on the New York Central's trackage on September 7th, 1948. She worked. The design was sound, and a total of 20 would be produced. However, there was a problem. See, during production, while General Electric was finishing everything up, the political tensions deteriorated into the straight-up Cold War, and the State Department banned sales of strategic goods to the Soviet Union. Locomotives are considered strategic goods. General Electric could no longer sell these to the Soviets. The Soviets couldn't get their locomotives, comrades, and that meant General Electric was stuck with them, which was kind of an awkward position to be in because no one else had ordered locomotives quite like them. 14 were built to the Soviet gauge, which is 5 feet, very wide, though the final 6 were built to our standard gauge because at that point they realized, well, the Soviets aren't getting these, so they might as well make the rest to fit our lines, and the other ones would have to be re-gauged. The Soviet railway engineers who'd been a part of the project had been recalled back to Soviet Russia, comrades, prior to the ban. And as far as the Soviets were concerned, well, they were forced to design their own locomotive, which resulted in the VL-8, originally known as the N-8. Those actually still operate today, believe it or not, so it kind of worked out. But as for General Electric, again, they were like, okay, what are we gonna do? These things were built for those filthy communists! Who's gonna want them? Well, interestingly, the Milwaukee Road would step in. They had DC electrified lines, and they could use the extra motive power, and they saw a chance to get really good locomotives for a bargain, because General Electric was kind of desperate to find a customer to take these off their hands to at least get some money out of the situation. The Milwaukee Road made an offer to buy all 20 of them, plus the spare parts for $1 million. That was only slightly above scrap value. It was basically nothing, not nearly what they were worth retail, but General Electric did want to get rid of them, so they accepted. Except despite the fact that this was a insanely good deal for Milwaukee Road, the board of directors over there, being made of idiots by this point, decided not to release the money, annoying General Electric, who proceeded to try to find other customers, and did manage to move a few of the units. 3 went to the Chicago South Shore and South Bend Railroad, otherwise known as the South Shore Line, and 5 went down to Brazil to run on Companhia Paulista de Estradas de Ferro. But they still had 12 of them, and Milwaukee Road actually made the same offer because at that point they suddenly were desperate, because demand during the Korean War boosted Milwaukee's traffic on their electrified main line, and they were dealing with a coal strike that required sending the diesels they had back east. General Electric accepted the offer again because they were willing to give them all 12, and technically speaking, the Milwaukee Road called them Class EF4, with 2 of them being modified for passenger service, designated Class EP4. But their employees tended to call them Little Joseph Stalin's locomotives, which was generally shortened to just Little Joe's. And that name stuck. Comrade. Now, at first, while they did function, their original design parameters made them pretty prone to wheel slip, interestingly enough. Milwaukee Road's electrified lines were also very, very old. Their motor generator substations were from World War I, and they had difficulty supplying more than 2 of these powerful locomotives at a time on the lines. They just didn't have enough power, which meant that their true ability couldn't really be demonstrated appropriately. Also, the controls were labeled in Russian, which, to be fair, makes sense, but they kind of needed to change that too. They modified them for increased weight on their driving axles, as well as raising the maximum height of the pantographs and messing about with the power supply. They turned into excellent locomotives. They were very, very good and reliable. In terms of the EP models, the ones designated for passenger service, well, that was E20 and E21. Those were modified before delivery to remove driving controls and windows at one end, because these were double-cabbed locomotives, which is what the Soviets had wanted. At the end where the cab was effectively removed, they added improved main circuit breakers, as well as a steam generator for the passenger coaches. The loss of that cab didn't matter to the Milwaukee Road, because most of their electric locomotives turned at the end of their runs anyway, so they didn't need to be double-cabbed. Additionally, all of them were eventually modified to have multiple unit controls for trailing diesel electric locomotives. E20 and E21, for their passenger needs, were also given roller bearings. Nice! Comrade! And overall, the Milwaukee Road was very happy with them once the necessary changes were made. All the locomotives served well, right up until the railway decided to idiotically destroy their own electrified lines because they wanted the copper value, which by the time they had done that, copper prices had gone down again, so they didn't make any money back off of it, basically. They actually spent money to do it. Oh, also they did that in the middle of the oil embargo, so yeah, they're very stupid, is really where I'm at with it. In fact, by the time electrical operation was over, the Little Joes were the only ones they were still using. All the other electric locomotives they had been retired, mostly due to age. As for the ones that were sent to other railways, well, the South Shore Line used them up until 1981, though they didn't call theirs Little Joes, they called theirs 800s. And because they lasted till 1981, that made them the last electrics in regular mainline service on a U.S. common carrier railroad. As for the Brazil ones, well, they had to be regaged to 5'3" for their railways, and the Brazilians called them Russas, because Russia. Comrade. They were, by their nature, the most powerful electric locomotives in Brazil, and they operated theirs until 1999. All in all, a good showing for locomotives that were meant to be the Soviets' property, comrades! But instead, we wound up keeping them because the state said we couldn't. And, it worked out. Soviets built decent electrics on their own, and we got some really good ones here. As far as survivors of the class, well, there are a few. Out of the majority batch that Milwaukee Road received, only one survives. They scrapped all theirs but a single example, E70. She was donated to Deer Lodge and is now displayed on the courthouse lawn, painted in the Milwaukee Road's Olympian Hiawatha livery. Out of the South Shore ones, two survived, interestingly enough. 803 is in operational condition at the Illinois Railway Museum, which is awesome. It's great to see a functional preserved electric locomotive. That is insanely rare. And her sister 802 is preserved and on public display at the Lakeshore Railway Historical Museum in northeast Pennsylvania. As for Brazil, well, they also saved two. 6452 is on a display at a museum in Sao Paulo, and 6455 is also in the same city, actually, though being left outside meant a lot of parts got taken, and in 2008 she was thankfully moved to a rail station museum where she could no longer be vandalized, so that's good. So yeah, a good showing all around in terms of preservation. I think it's actually interesting that South Shore, out of the three they had, saved two. They were like, yeah, we'll save most of ours. Good guy South Shore over here. Milwaukee Road's like, yeah, we got a lot of these, we'll save one. Typical. But anyway, that's the story of the Little Joes. Comrade. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.